And it just keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder and crazier and quite alarming. Dead Ebola patients are rising from the dead. And there's most likely more than two. World Health Organization staff and residents of Ganta fled in absolute shock after the horror of two people who died from Ebola suddenly rose and walked around in the village. Local reports are resulting in a larger investigation. Isaiah 26, verse 19 through 20. Your dead shall live and their bodies shall rise. Ganta, Liberia. The first reports of the dead resurrecting and rising from the dead are coming in from Liberia, Africa. In the city of Ganta, residents are on high alert after patients who died from Ebola were seen suddenly standing and wandering aimless about, eyes distant and groans chilling. Before I go any further, you may be thinking, I've heard this before, I reported this before, but it gets worse. Hang in there. Two Ebola patients who grew up in a very prosperous Nimba County resurrected in front of their families. Reports put the age of the Ebola victims at being in their 60s and 40s. A funeral ritual was taking place in the Hope Village community, a tight-knit Catholic enclave in Ganta. Residents were soon amazed, shocked, and thrown into a riotous scene of chaotic terror. When the deceased regained their life, both of the victims came to life only minutes before their bodies were to be taken away for burial. And the next person that comments and says, is this a coma? Well, do they have the adequate medical equipment to understand the difference between a coma and dead? Let me keep reading. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback made a very concerning move earlier today, putting his state on high alert after hearing this news. Kansas is on alert for potential outbreaks of Ebola and those rising from the dead after succumbing to death from it. Reports from Africa report that two WHO workers who were bitten by one of the zombies, and now those workers have Ebola. Several other countries in Africa also confirmed scattered, repeated cases of WHO workers being attacked by families and unknown individuals, though there are more reports of some of these workers being bitten by family members who do not appear fully cognizant. Okay. If that's not strange enough for you, I got you. Red Alert FEMA prepares for Ebola. U.S. government preparing for the zombie apocalypse. Proof. As most of you know, we wrote this article, made a long video about it, and I was feeling pretty nuts. I got to tell you, sitting here today, I do not feel nearly as nuts. Because more and more reports are coming out about the dead rising. Not just of two instances either. There's been quite a few reports as well of scattered all across Africa. Not all across West Africa, I should say. What's weird is that there was somebody, and I'm not going to name names, even though I probably should, but I can't, said this, that the towns were like a scene from a movie. Dead bodies lying up and down the roads, dogs eating the bodies, and the houses were just filled with more death. And the numbers that we are being told were vastly underestimated. Not only do I think that they were vastly underestimated, I think that there's something else going on behind all of this than what we're being told. Because not only are we getting concerned that this is a bio attack, but apparently so is Liberia. Major publication in Liberia speculates Ebola is U.S.-funded bioweapon. Not only is it U.S.-funded, it's U.S. recreated. Dead now resurrecting like zombies. There's a point where I'm beginning to wonder if I'd really lost my mind. If I'd gotten too much into this. And posting about it, because I was researching this stuff for like 2 days. Just constant, all day. I had to take a break today because my head, I was so overloaded with information and just questioning if I was if I was posting on the right stuff. Because really, zombies, get out. The more I read, it just sounds more true. Scary enough. Not only that, but something I knew for a while, and I just kind of left it out. But I did put it in the article. But there have been zombies before. The dead rose in 1599. Something else you ought to think about. And that was tied to the bubonic plague. That's also been popping up everywhere as well.